uncomfortable people didn't have them, and I would think they're uncomfortable. Are they good?
I can't catch you. No. I think I did. It would be terrible in school with these masks.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Tonight is Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. This meeting is being held in the Wethersfield High School Auditorium. Ellen, can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Chairman Carey. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Cassio?
Present.
Mrs. Evans? Here. Mrs. Granato?
Here.
Mr. Lesser?
Here.
Mr. Michaels?
Here.
Mrs. Paradise?
Here.
Mr. Riley?
Here.
Vice Chairperson Mr. Healy?
Here.
Chairperson Mr. Carey?
Present.
And Wethersfield High School Student Representative Lina Yusello.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, Ellen. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and have Lina Yusello lead us, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Emmett, student staff recognition.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Carey. Good evening, everyone. A couple of items this evening. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome our new Wethersfield Board of Education student representative, Lina Yusello. Lina.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say that I'm so grateful and honored to be here with you all today and for the rest of this year, and to be the voice of Wethersfield High School for the remainder of the year. I was so honored when everyone elected me to have this position, and I really hope that I can make our school and the students proud. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome, Lina. I have one more item this evening. This is a communication that was sent out to the Wethersfield Board of Education, as well as the superintendent, from the State of Connecticut State Board of Education. I'd like to read it if I could, please. Dear Board of Education members and superintendents, as members of the Connecticut State Board of Education, we recognize the significant challenges currently facing our schools and school leaders. As such, we want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the critical work that you continue to do in support of our schools, faculty, families, and students. Especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, we applaud you for all your efforts to keep our schools open and safe and our students learning. What we have learned during the past school year and what is supported by recent assessment data is that students learn best in person with their educators and friends, and in-person instruction is the only made possible through the consistent employment of a series of mitigation efforts and protocols to support safe and healthy school environments. We understand how stressful these situations can be in the face of opposition and truly appreciate your courage and commitment to support your schools, staff, families, and students. The only way we can get through this pandemic is to work together in support of our communities. We always invite everyone to the table to provide input and collaborate, and we encourage you to continue this practice wherever possible. For the sake of our children and their continued success in learning, we join you in placing them at the center of all of our discourse and our efforts in support the members of the State Board of Education. Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Emmett. Moving on to approvals of minutes of previous board meetings. Do I have an approval for the August 24th, 2020 regularly scheduled board meeting?
So moved.
Second. Any comments? Seeing none with a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
So noted.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to make comment, please come up to the mic, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. Jack Tadero, 157 Charter Road. I'm the father of 2 children in town. Not here to belabor you guys on data and statistics. I know they've been shared with you, obviously available for public consumption. I'm not going to talk about the science of masks or if they work or if they don't. I'm not going to talk about the potential side effects, physical side effects of masks. My remarks today are solely based on simple, indisputable truths that we all agree on. The first point is we know COVID-19 does not impact children in any meaningful way above and beyond any other virus that exists. Number 2, it's our responsibility as adults to protect our children. It is not our children's responsibility or burden to protect us, of course. Bullet point number 3, COVID-19 is likely never going to be eradicated. It's something that we are just going to have to learn to exist with, just as we exist with any risk with being a human, right? And I know you heard all about swimming and all the different ways you could die greater than COVID, so I won't get into that. Number 4, Connecticut, as you know, has the lowest, or one of the lowest infection, hospitalization, and most importantly, death rates in the country, and the highest vaccination rates. If we aren't in a position today, right, to lift those restrictions and mandates, then when are we going to be in a position? Because if not today, right, we're basically committing ourselves to living our lives in this way, masked and muzzled, not just our kids, but everyone, right? So let's think through that. What will be the trigger? Number 5, right, and this is specific to young kids. I have young kids, but covering someone's face obviously poses a significant disadvantage to small children who are still obviously developing their social and emotional maturity. How can we expect kids to, be able to learn how to read and write and even just speak correctly without being able to see the enunciation on people's lips and how to speak effectively? They have to rely on nonverbal cues, but not from their faces, right? You could see someone maybe with their arms crossed, and I might interpret that a certain way, but I can infer what's going on beneath the mask. A kid's not able to do that. So another point. And then my last point here, number 6, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys this one, but kids grow up fast, right? And I'm telling you, and I only have a 4- and a 6-year-old, but so you guys know even more than I do, but 3 years have already been disrupted by this virus. We have to act swiftly. A lot of kids haven't even experienced a normal school year yet. And we can't wait 2 or 3 more years to give them a normal experience. And I don't mean a new normal, I mean normal experience. 18 months is an eternity to a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old. It's their whole life. It's all they can remember. And so I'll just leave you guys with a call to action, right? It's been stated that your hands are tied, right? I get it in this matter. Well, so are mine. But it doesn't prevent me to come here and escalate this matter to you guys and participate in political discourse for the greater good of our kids. So I'm asking you, right, as representatives of us and our kids, join in this fight. Join with us, right? There's protests. And you guys are in a very distinguished position. You have a distinguished podium, a broader audience than just an individual like myself who is willing to go out. But you have that stage, and I ask you to use that and escalate it up. Fight the authoritarian environment that we're living in. Use your power. So I'll just leave it with stop complying, enough is enough, and thank you for your time.
Anyone else in the public wishing to make a comment, please come up, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello. I will do my best to read this in 5 minutes. My name is Johnny Moore Dotson. I live at 7 Springdale Road. I am a PhD level scientist and also a parent of a child who recently started kindergarten here in Wethersfield. I thank the Board of Education for the work that you do to support a safe learning environment for our kids. I prepared a statement in support of continuing multi-layered mitigation strategies in schools that includes required use of masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19 among students should the mask mandate in schools be lifted after September 30th. I am particularly concerned about the impact of an optional mask policy, and I would like to share some data that illustrates the continued need for masks to remain a part of the mitigation effort. Before I share that data, it is important to note that viruses do not respect borders. Viruses can spread across town and state lines. For proof of this, consider how rapidly the original strain of COVID-19 spread across international borders, as well as how quickly the Delta variant became the dominant COVID-19 strain without proper mitigation efforts. It is not enough to focus narrowly on what is currently happening in Wethersfield with regards to COVID-19. We should also consider what is happening state and nationwide with the spread of the Delta variant and the absence of universal masking. According to the CDC, in August 2021, the average weekly cases of COVID-19 in kids younger than 12 was 24 per 100,000 nationwide. We are only 14 days into September, and the country is already averaging 18 cases per 100,000 weekly in kids under 12. In March and April of this year, that number was only about 9 per 100,000 when many kids had returned to the classroom with multiple layers of mitigation in place across the country before the Delta variant became the predominant strain. As the 2021 to 2022 school year began in different parts of the country, a trend emerged in districts that changed their policies to make the use of masks optional. There was a sharp increase in kids diagnosed with COVID-19. This led to school closures and tens of thousands of students in quarantine at home. Increased COVID-19 exposures in schools that led to school closings are not only happening in places where the vaccination rate is low. Let's consider what is happening in a state that has a similar vaccination rate as Connecticut. In Connecticut, 67.2% of those eligible are fully vaccinated. The state of Maine has a vaccination rate of 66.8%. That's very similar. The difference in Maine is that there is currently no statewide mask mandate for schools. However, some districts allow for optional mask wearing. According to the data presented in an article published in the Portland Press Herald, a Maine newspaper, as of September 9th, there were 14 COVID-19 outbreak investigations, which is defined as 3 or more cases at Maine schools, and 11 schools had reported full or partial closures because of COVID-19. In one particular school, 4 positive cases generated 143 close contacts during contact tracing. An additional 20 positive cases were identified. As a result, the school shifted to remote learning for 2 weeks. Between 2 schools, more than 200 people were asked to quarantine. To put that in perspective, of the school my daughter attends, that would be about half of the school being asked to quarantine. Consider the impact that the lack of in-person schooling would have on the mental health and development of kids. Also consider the impact on working parents who may be forced with the difficult choice of staying home with their kids in quarantine and working to provide for their basic needs. Several research studies have shown that mitigation measures like masks, ventilation, and distancing has worked during the previous school year to prevent the spread. In Missouri, schools that implemented masks, physical distancing, and increased ventilation had much lower transmission than in the surrounding community. In Utah, despite an inability to space students greater than 6 feet apart, high student mask use led to low transmission of COVID-19, even with high community transmission rates. In Wisconsin, when masking requirements and the use of cohorts were implemented, transmission rates remained low. In fact, the schools had a 37% lower incidence of COVID-19 than the surrounding community. I would like to switch gears a bit and discuss what is known about the Delta variant, specifically the ways we know it is different than the original virus. It is 200% more transmissible and results in up to 1,000 times higher viral load compared to previous variants. This translates into one person going on to infect 6 to 10 additional people. According to data published yesterday by the American Academy of Pediatrics, as of September 9th, there has been a 240% increase in kids being diagnosed with COVID since July. And kids...
Ms. Dotson, your time is almost up. If you could wrap it up, please.
Sure, I can wrap it up. I just want to make a couple of points. We know that COVID-19 has a wide-ranging impact on kids. Some kids can have mild cases, some kids can have severe cases. We know it has secondary long-lasting effects. There's preliminary data, which I can share with you guys, that's showing that. We know they suffer from multiple inflammatory syndrome, which affects multiple organ systems. I have listened to some people express that they know their kids and can predict that their kids will be fine without wearing a mask, and maybe that's true. But we cannot predict is how any particular kid will respond to COVID-19 infection. But we do know that mask works to prevent the spread of this mitigation, the spread of COVID. Ultimately, we all have the same goal of keeping kids in school in a safe manner. Universal masking in schools is key to meeting that goal. In light of the information I've discussed, I ask that you keep mandatory masking in Wethersfield in place in order to protect our kids, including the many who cannot be vaccinated. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other public members wishing to make comment, please come up, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, public comment is over. Communications, Mr. Emmett.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Good evening again, everyone. I'd like to remind the community that the district has posted our COVID dashboard again to our website. This dashboard provides the number of positive cases on a daily basis as well as on a cumulative basis. In addition, it provides data on the number of quarantines by school. Communications related to positive COVID cases will be shared through our Parent Square communication system as they come up. So right now, this evening, as I speak to you, we've had a total since day one of school of 12 positive cases. We had 11 students, 1 staff member. Currently, as I speak to you this evening, we have a total of 15 students on quarantine. We have 0 staff members on quarantine. I would also say thus far that our data collection shows that every one of our positive cases has been of an unvaccinated individual. So clearly, the vaccinations thus far, based on our data, have had a positive impact on cases. The district does continue to strive toward the return to normal with the opening of the fall sports season. It features the return to football for the first time since November 2019, our Thanksgiving game against Newington. The Eagles will take the Catone Field on Friday for that home game. In addition to that, I've seen full parking lots this evening when you came in. We had girls volleyball, we had girls swim and dive today, and we also had field hockey out on Catone Field. So we are striving to get back to some sense of normalcy. Our Varabi Adult Ed program will be returning to Wethersfield High School in person after being full remote for the entirety of last school year. I'm also thrilled to say that the Keen on Kids after school programs will be returning to in-person opportunities in our buildings. We will still continue to use mitigation strategies, but it'll be great to have kids in the buildings. And over at Highcrest, the Y program, the after-school care program, has returned after not operating last year. And then finally, this evening, you see before you Board of Education in the crowd. We have our building leaders, our principals of the Wethersfield Public Schools, who will be coming up and providing an update on the reopening from a building perspective. That's communications.
Thank you, Mr. Emmett. There are no action items. Moving on to reports and discussion items. Mr. Emmett, 2021-2022 school opening update.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Carey. Very pleased to introduce our Wethersfield Schools principals that will be providing an update on how things are going on a building basis across the district. So, Mr. Craig will be starting off. We'll hear from each of our principals this evening.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us today. I'm Kenneth Craig. I'm the principal at Webb Elementary School. In the interest of not repeating ourselves, the elementary principal team decided to each take a section of the reopening. Because our district's elementary schools are so much in line, we meet frequently to align practices. We thought it would be best to do it that way. So I'm going to start with instruction and specifically what we've done to boost instruction for all students and make sure that we're taking care of many of the losses that we've seen over the last couple of years. So we're very pleased to use the latest round of ESSER funding to provide an additional math interventionist position. This will be the first of its kind in our district, each of the elementary schools having that and each of the schools having that. So this is a very important position for us, not only as they will be providing intervention to students, but they're also a very important leader in our school, and we have now an instructional leadership team comprised of math interventionist, reading consultant, and curriculum specialist. So this is a very important leadership team that helps all teachers implement high-quality instruction for all students and also helps students who need extra help in the classroom as well. So we're very excited to implement that this year. We've also restructured our curriculum specialists so that they are servicing one school in addition to their district responsibilities, and this helps us provide consistency at each of the schools in terms of that leadership position as well. So we're very excited to utilize these new team members. We're very excited to push students forward and make up some of those losses that we've seen, and we're very confident in the team that we have in place. Our wonderful teachers and staff are the best team in place to take on this challenge. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Patrick Cohn, who is going to take the next section. Thank you.
Good Good evening. Again, as Mr. Craig said, thank you for having us. My name is Patrick Cohen. I'm the principal at Hanmer School, and I'm going to speak to you tonight about facilities. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges we face and also some of the positives we've seen. I'll start with some of the positives. We've actually got air conditioning now in the cafeteria and the kitchen area at Hanmer, which has been well received by students and staff. I know they're doing that upgrade at Highcrest as well. Challenges have included, we've run out of real estate pretty quickly. I can speak to that at Hanmer, and with my colleagues, I think would feel the same way at the other schools. We've had expansions of programs such as Strive, which, while a benefit, have also taken up space at our schools. We continue to struggle with some of our facilities in terms of roof leaks, and we continue to work and partner with physical services to work out on those. We continue to work with physical services. They've been a great help with some of our COVID protocols, including ventilation, making sure that our rooms are properly ventilated. At Hanmer over the summer, for example, we were able to have our dampers automated, so now our custodian can actually control those from his office. It will be an energy saver for us. It will help us actually make sure that the rooms are properly ventilated throughout the school day and be environmentally friendly at night as well. So positive moves there. We are utilizing every inch of space, indoors and outdoors, for our students to make sure that they are safe, a minimum of 3 feet apart where possible, 6 feet apart in our cafeterias. We continue to use the furniture that we've purchased over the last 18 months to make sure that that is happening, and we are working very diligently together and partnering with our colleagues at Physical Services to make this happen.
Good evening, I'm Donna Schilke, and I'm acting as interim principal for Mrs. Takor, and I'm here really sharing her report with you on mitigation strategies, again, that most of the schools are using. A lot of what we're doing is what was done last year, the biggies of hand washing, hand sanitizing, and mask wearing. All students in all classes are washing hands at least 6 times a day, at least, and sometimes more than that. And if you figure school is a 6 or 7 hour day, they're getting their hands washed almost once an hour. It's before and after snack, before and after recess, before and after lunch. Sanitation happens at the same time. Mask wearing, I walked the building yesterday. This is my second day on. So yesterday I went into every single room unannounced. They didn't know I was coming. And every single student and every single staff in every corner of the building had masks on, and they were wearing them properly. What I saw were very happy students, very happy to be back. That was what they told me. They were really glad to be back. The masks are on at all times indoors. They are not on always at recess time, and sometimes in PE classes that are outside, masks may or may not be worn depending on the particular activity that's taking place. After lunch, students go outside. Again, at that point in time, they do not have to wear masks. Breaks are also being given by teachers. The opportunity for breaks is there all the time, and I see students walking with the teacher sometimes out the front. They're taking extra time for the mask break, for everybody, for them as well. Any student who asks for a break will be given a break, no questions asked. Not a lot asked, but if the teacher sees them fiddling and they need to see a little break, they are given that opportunity as well. So that's definitely happening. The 3-foot distance piece is happening as much as possible in every setting. With everybody back, or most of our students back, it's not always possible in every room because of the numbers. The problem area for us are the music classes, the wind instrument classes, and the vocal classes that require 6 feet distance. Right now, if you drive by probably any of the schools, you'll hear beautiful music outside and beautiful singing outside, and that's great as long as the weather holds. When the weather no longer holds, we will have a problem. The State Department's aware of it. They're working on their Addendum 7 right now, which involves the music classes, and we're waiting to hear what they come up with. And we're still trying to brainstorm, what can we do for these kids? Can we break them into small groups? That's all fine and good, again, until you need that rehearsal time. So we are waiting to hear more from that. Again, most of those classes are being held outside. We are no longer keeping students so isolated from others. For example, at recess, they're out by grade level, so all 6th graders that are out at recess are now able to interact with students from other classes, and they're loving it. It feels so normal to them to be with friends from other classes across grade levels, and that's a good thing right now. In our intervention block, our WIN block, where students meet in very small groups for intervention and for services to help them with any deficit areas, we are once again putting kids together in groups based on deficit needs rather than just a cohort from a certain classroom. This is not only beneficial to the teaching that can be focused on a specific need, but it really helps for accelerating that learning that we definitely need right now. So that's what we're doing. It looks like everybody's following it from what I'm seeing. I was very happy. I felt very safe. And I'm the oldie who brings notes up here. So if I'm feeling safe, I hope the kids and staff are as well. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Glenn Horter, principal of Charles Wright School. Ending a year and beginning a year is critical. And after this COVID experience, we knew that beginning this year needed to be different. And our focus on restorative schools, trauma-informed schools, and staff and students would be the way to go. Joe Brummer, I need to say, Donna, I brought a book, not notes, the whole book. Joe Brummer spent time with each of our teams focused on restorative practices. And it was first and foremost to bond us again, rebond us. Because the isolation, the being home or being in school, it had negative impacts on our children. It had negative impacts on our staff. It was almost that we all went through an experience that the next day we never knew what was going to be happening. And so we all needed healing. Joe brought that to us through his restorative practices. From each school, we had a team of at least 5 people trained in restorative practices before the school year began. We came together and circled up. Circling up, you might think of the old song, Kumbaya, and we're just going to share our feelings. It's more than that. It's sharing how we were impacted, what our thoughts are that bring us together, that make us the same, our common interests, our common fears. It was one of the best opportunities this district has given its staff members to rejuvenate, to rebuild those connections that we lost. And so the staff members of these teams went back to our schools with them. And in every classroom, teachers were trained and started using circling up. Need a talking stick, it could just about be anything, even a dog leash, just to pass and say, hey, what is the place you go to when you need space? And you just pass it around and everyone shares. And through that, you learn what everyone else is thinking and you make connections without even realizing it. So restorative practices and respect agreements have started our year. Calm, cool, collective. Adding that to the energy of our kids, the strength of our teachers, the excitement of all being back together. We've started off well.
Good evening. Christine Morey, Principal, Highcrest Elementary School. It's nice to be with you all this evening. To add on to what Glenn just shared about district priority number 1, focusing on empathy, we are also focusing on our social emotional learning with our new curriculum titled Rethink Education. Our teachers are working about 120 minutes per week on this SEL work. 60 minutes of that time is intentional lessons using our new curriculum. And the other 60 minutes, well, they're integrated minutes. Those are minutes where we find teachers talking about social emotional learning in places like morning meeting and readers workshop and writers workshop. When we think about our SEL work, we really had a great jump start. As Glenn shared, we talked about restorative practices, but then we moved into this new curriculum, and we built in 3 hours of time on September 1st for our teachers to really dig in. They had a chance to work as an entire district grade level group. So all teachers in 2nd grade were together. All teachers in 4th grade were together. They had a tremendous amount of training, but then they also had time to open up the manuals, to dig through the materials that they would be using with their students. It was 3 hours of very beneficial time. So our Rethink Education lessons began this week in kindergarten through 6th grade. And we are excited because our district has worked to align these lessons. So each week we have a domain or a theme. This week our theme is on social skills and building relationships. So across the whole district, kindergarten through 6th graders are focusing on this domain. And within this domain, we are seeing in our schools morning messages around this work. We're seeing lessons around this work. Just yesterday, I was in a 1st grade classroom and I observed a teacher showing a video, having a fantastic discussion about what the students observed, and then an activity to follow. And that's a logical sequence that we'll see throughout this curriculum. One message that's shared this week is a message that was shared across all of the schools in the morning announcements. And I love this message. The message this week is, most great learning happens in groups. Collaboration is the stuff of growth, by Sir Ken Robinson. All of us are taking away that strong message, and each week our students will not only focus on these SEL lessons, but they will be given messages and themes and ideas that will continue throughout the school year.
Yes. Before we move on to middle school and high school, any board members have questions for the elementary school principals? Comments to, yes,
Okay.
Ms. Paradise.
I always have a comment, but today I was lucky enough to visit Highcrest School, and everything that each of these principals mentioned was being demonstrated in that school. I saw children laughing. I saw children engaging at lunch, maybe 4 feet apart, but they were talking to each other like we would if we went out to dinner with adults. They weren't masked up and silent. They were having a great lunchtime. I saw kids out at lunch recess having a great time, like what I might call the olden days. It was a great experience. I saw a couple crowded rooms, which was my first intention of going, but Mr. Emmett says we have no extra rooms, or as Mr. Cohn says, 100% of the space is being used. But I was very impressed with all the principals. If they're all working like Highcrest is, and what I'm hearing is, it was an excellent opening and an excellent job by all of you to make those kids feel comfortable and sharing and laughing. I heard the laughter in the cafeteria. I was like, oh my God, they're in the caf laughing. It's great. So I thank Christine Moy for taking me around and viewing what is going on. It's wonderful. If anybody has a chance to see, it's wonderful. Kids engaging, small group lessons, teachers out, curriculum specialists in classrooms, which is wonderful help for the teachers, especially in those large rooms I saw them in, Everything was positive at Highcrest, and I'm sure it's going that way in all the other buildings. So I thank you, principals, for what you're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Paradise. Any other board members with comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Cassio.
Thank you. Regarding a comment, I want to thank all of you for leading the ship in our schools. It's a fine example of communication, not only with the parents and the students, but with the Board of Education. With your weekly updates that you give to the board, it's very impressive. It's like we're there. The videos, the click-ons, it's been a long time since I've been in elementary school, and it's like we were there, and we're board members. But thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Any other board members? All right. Floor is yours, Ms. Bannon, Ms. O'Connor.
Good evening, board and public. We're honored to be here tonight. I'm Rosalind Bannon. I am the principal of Silas Dean Middle School, and with me,
Siobhan O'Connor, principal of Wethersfield High School.
Siobhan and I have formed a partnership. We used to work together quite a bit when Siobhan was at the elementary school, and now that she's at the high school, we're really aligning our two schools so that we can have a very strong secondary education program.
And just the same, it was wonderful to come up from the elementary school because now we have a great continuum. So we're going to follow the same format that our elementary colleagues have followed in order to just help organize our night and information. So I'm going to start first with instructional, what that looks like here at the high school. Both of our schools, really, at Wethersfield High School and at Silas C. Middle School, we're really focusing on the importance of our Tier 1 instruction, getting all of those students in the classrooms and really taking full responsibility for every single one of our kids. We know that this has been a really tough 18 months, and so we want to make sure that everyone is taken care of and they are ready to learn. That's really our first and foremost. But we really can't thank the board and the district enough for all of the supports that we've been able to provide for us. So one of the major changes we have is we have math interventionists at both of our schools, and they've already started making a difference. They are in classrooms, they are supporting teachers, they are noticing when our students are struggling and providing just great embedded professional development to make sure that our kids have those needs met. We also want to thank the board for our instructional supervisors. They have done a great job. Drs. Layton and Mr. Conway have already rolled up their sleeves and have started working in all of our schools to really digging into our data and looking at our history, but then also just seeing practice in both of our secondary environments. Both of them are so keyed into our 3 pillars of equity, empathy, and achievement. So thank you. They've been great supports. As far as facilities, we have a great celebration. Our middle school, all of the AC problems have been solved, so they've had a great job with their AC. So that's always a good celebration. We've had a few challenges here at Wethersfield High School. It's a complicated system, and so you may have heard about our 2nd, our 4th, or 5th floors having various issues, but our facilities department have been right on that, coming and supporting us and fixing those too. So all of our issues currently are solved, but again, it's a day-to-day basis. The other piece of this is we have had so much rain lately that we all have leaks. There are leaks at the elementary schools, there are leaks here at the high school and at SDMS, but it's just a part of the job, and so we monitor and adjust and we figure out what we need to do. But this, again, facilities has been great to help us with those as much as they can, but given all of the rain, then that was to be anticipated.
As far as routines go, we are trying to build strong routines and procedures at both the middle school and the high school level. And lunch is one of the areas that we are really keyed into. We currently at SDMS are short 2 cafeteria workers, which is helping to lead to some longer lines than we would like. However, children, as they do, they rise to the occasion. And today, when they came in for lunch, they were in and out of the line within 10 minutes, and they really mastered that piece so that the lines are down despite having 2 workers that we're still looking to hire. At SDMS, we are back to just 2 lunch waves. Last year during the pandemic, as a result of the pandemic, we had an MOU with the WFT, and that MOU is no longer in place, so we're back to our 2 lunch waves, and what we've done to accommodate that is our teams are rotating through the cafeteria, so one trimester, one team will eat in their classrooms, and that seems to be working out very well also. We've been coordinating with Wade from Chartwell's, and hopefully in the very short term, he'll be buying a heater that will allow the food to be delivered to the pod of classrooms on team, so that will be that many less students in the cafeteria in line trying to get their lunches. So it's a work in progress, but it's working well. At the high school, they currently have 11 lunch waves, and they're monitoring and adjusting as they go, and are hoping to get it down to 5 or 6. They think that within a few weeks that is a very real possibility. But things are going well in the lunchroom. The lunchrooms are vibrant, and you walk in and you really feel like you're in a middle school cafeteria or a high school cafeteria despite the masking. The kids are able to have their masks off while they're eating, and they love to socialize with each other as teenagers do. So it's really a vibrant place, and they really enjoy their time in there.
And so as Raz was stating, our mitigation strategies are really designed to strike a balance. And so we know that over the past 18 months, students have really suffered, as have teachers, with the lack of social interaction. And so we're really trying hard to balance that need that they have with also being health and safety conscious. And so the lunchroom is one of those places where we're trying to provide that social opportunity, but at the same time be responsible citizens to make sure at the end of the day that we keep our doors open all year, that our athletic program continues all year, and that clubs and activities can go on as normal. So all of those are a part of our responsibility as citizens and as students and teachers here at the high school and at the middle school. I have to say, walking in, despite mitigation strategies, despite the mask, people are happy to be in school. They are happy to see each other. They are happy to feel normal-ish. I don't know what normal will be or what normal will look like long term, but to see students being able to go to their club organizations and have a conversation with their teacher and just feel connected again. And so that really is our major strategy, is making people feel happy about being in school and ensuring that we're here all year. That's our promise to our seniors, that we want to see them at the Cove just like we were last year. And so I think we're all working together to make sure that that happens.
As far as SEL at the middle school and high school, we are definitely trying to strike a balance with balancing our empathy, our equity, and our achievement. And we're really bringing to the forefront SEL, social emotional learning. Like the elementary counterparts we all attended Joe Brummer's restorative training during the summer, and we brought teams with us. And our teams were just amazed by the information that we learned and brought it all back. At SDMS, we have been focusing on connecting with each other and reconnecting with each other, along with communication. We started the year off circling up, and every time we've gotten together, we have circled up since. It has taken off, and we see it throughout the building. We have very many early adopters who are circling up in their classrooms, and they've already started with respect agreements. And they see the value in connecting with each other and in connecting with the students. As Joe told us, we can put a story to every word, action, or behavior. And it's that makes the context and the meaning to the action and behavior. So that's what we're trying to do. And in running our circles, we're telling each other a little bit about ourselves and a little bit about our story in order for people to be able to connect to one another and take your perspective, or at least understand your perspective. You don't always have to agree, but you need to know where that other person is coming from and what experiences they've had that have shaped their views in order to keep an open mind. We're giving teachers the tools that they need to take a quick break. I gave my teachers a picture frame at the end of our last staff gathering, and our topic for discussion during our circle was, what's your happy place? And I brought a picture of my happy place and modeled it for them, and they were all just like absolutely thrilled. I can't wait to fill my picture frame. And we said to them, you get to take a quick trip. Anytime you feel like you need a little break, just take a view of that picture and keep it there. We gave them positive stones, so we gave them gemstones. When you're feeling like you need to release some stress, take the stone and rub it, and it will help you. And they're using those tools to help keep them calm when students are feeling anxious. So providing them with the tools that they need is really, really important, and the continual communication and connecting with them. And at the high school, they have a We Connect block that they have just started this year. So that's their rebranding of their advisory program. And that's the time for students and the teachers to really connect with each other and get to know each other. Because we know that teenagers are really social people and social creatures, so we want to promote that in a positive and healthy way. So SEL is definitely alive and well at both the middle school and the high school this year. And we thank you for your time, and we thank you for allocating the ESSER funds to us and improving that, because we are already reaping the benefits.
Thank you. Any board members with questions or comments? Mrs. Granado.
I just want to comment how thrilled I am to see the two of you working together like that. You know, it's a big developmental change to go from 7th, 8th, and then into the high school. And to see that there's a lot of communication going on, I'm thrilled. I know the elementary schools have always communicated, and that's one of the best things that can be done, but to see you two is wonderful. Thank you.
We truly enjoy working with each other. It's exciting work to be together and to be able to make a through line from middle school to high school.
Great job.
Thank you. Any other board members? Thank you, guys. Board members, announcements and information, please check your packets. If there is a committee meeting you can't make, let the committee chair know. Board of Ed meeting held. The Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative Meeting, WECC, was held on 9/13/21. Ms. Granato.
Okay, we had our WECC meeting yesterday. It was a virtual meeting, and WECC's statement is that all Wethersfield children birth to 8 are healthy, developmentally successful learners and connected to the community. The meeting was largely on how WECC can evolve with the new steering committee members and community partnership and ways to communicate. So the guest speakers were Amber Bank's Capital Workforce Partners. There are 7 American job centers. They have child care through Care for Kids, and there's an online United We Read, which is a United Way of Central and Northeastern Connecticut. And what they do is they have a one-on-one reading support for K through 3. For 11 years they've been doing this. Volunteers work for 30 to 40 minutes weekly, and now it's virtual. So the virtual program is run through Velo and Raz Plus. Our system does not use them yet, but they do want to branch out to Wethersfield. They also had staff updates, and we welcome Jim Welch, who is coming to the WECC program, or the WECC group, to work with data. And he is aiding WECC in making decisions wisely using all this data. And they use it from the website, Facebook, and Constant Contact. And we also had Kim Bobbin discuss the LEG grant, which is actively looking for parent ambassadors. And she's organizing our annual meeting, which is on October 25th, 2021. And the suggested topic is trauma of COVID-19 pandemic on students and preschoolers. We have partners for WECC, and it's the Wethersfield Library, Park and Rec, Social Services, Wethersfield Public Schools, and it is a wonderful collaborative to be involved in. The next meeting will be October 25th, which will be our annual meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Granato. Meeting scheduled. The CREC Council's meeting on 9/15/21 at 11:30 a.m. Facilities and Maintenance Committee's meeting is 9/20/21 at 6:30 p.m. And Finance and Operations Committee meets on 9/28/21 at 6:30 p.m. There is no unfinished business. Public comment is next. Anyone wishing to make public comment, please state your name and address for the record. Come on up to the mic, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Marissa Thibodeau, and I live, did you say name and address?
Name and address, please. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I live at 179 Clearfield. So I'm here to talk about a few things, but one, I just wanted to, I've never been to Wethersfield High School, and I only attended Sal's Dean when I was living here when I was younger. So as far as like finding this meeting, it was very hard to find. People that were coming out of the building didn't even know where the auditorium was. First we went to the town.
They can. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
First we went to the town hall to find this meeting because on the town page it wasn't very clear where this meeting was. So I just want to say it almost seems like, we don't want parents involved. Maybe that's not the intention. I hope that's not the intention. But if we could just make it a little bit clearer, like put it right on the page, what dates, the meetings are going to be on and where they could be found, because we drove all over the place. That's why we were late. So I am a former teacher. I taught special ed to middle school and high school students. And I worked with mostly kids with autism in a self-contained classroom. So I do understand the hardships of being a teacher and administrator. And I really wanted to focus today and tell you that I'm requesting that we unmask our kids. And I know that other people have done that. I want to point out that a couple times in the short time that we've been here, people on this board have pulled down their masks to take drinks or to talk, and that's a privilege that's not afforded to our students in school. My kids are 3, so fortunately not in Wethersfield Public Schools at this point. but it is a concern of ours as they get older, what their education experience is going to be like, and it makes us question whether we want to stay in Connecticut. But while we're here, we wanted to make our voice heard. My kids are brilliant and curious, and one of the most important aspects of how they learn is by watching people's faces, and that social emotional learning that was talked about by the other teachers or administrators is really important, and I think seeing people's faces is crucial. As I walked up here today with my mask on, you have no idea kind of like what I'm going to say, but you can't see my expression, and that's something that if you think about babies and young kids, they need that. They need to know if someone is friendly or not. They need to know how to read facial expressions, how to read emotions, and on top of it, like putting a mask on is a sign of submission, and it's not what I want for our kids. I'm willing as a parent and as an adult to make sacrifices for them, and so wearing a mask to be here today to talk about this, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with putting our kids, sacrificing their health in terms of like they need to breathe fresh air. I drove by a school and kids were outside playing with masks on, 6 feet apart, not allowed to play with anybody else. And it just brought me to tears because I just feel like we're living in this dystopian nightmare where kids are traumatized. Like the trauma that's going to occur as they grow up is hugely important. And also, I just want to call out that a couple people here, while people were talking, you just seem bored, you know, and I've seen some of the recordings. I've seen your arms crossed, like when people come here to talk about masks, because I'm sure it's frustrating to you to hear it, but it's important to us. So, again, like I pointed out, people that pull down their masks to talk into the microphone because you can't really hear clearly. When kids try to pull down their masks, they're yelled at. And that's just another example of rules for thee and not for me. Why do you guys get the privilege and they don't? So I'm asking to unmask our children, and whether you agree with that or not, I want to make myself heard. Okay.
Thank you. Any other public wishing to make comment?
Thank you. My name is Scott Wands. I live at 4 Avalon Place. Mr. Chairman and Council and Committee, thank you very much for hosting the session tonight. I want to read some of the remarks that I already emailed you, but I believe after the last speaker, they should be on the public record and heard by the town. On the eve of the new school year, I write to both thank you for your service to our town and to its students, and to urge you to continue to use the best, most current scientific knowledge and advice coming from the federal and state governments, Centers for Disease Control, and the Central Connecticut Health District in making decisions to keep our students safe during this upcoming year. The Unmask Our Kids Connecticut movement concerns me greatly. While I am glad that parents are so supportive of their children that they have decided to become passionate advocates on their behalf, their efforts are at best misguided and misinformed, and at worst a danger to our entire town's children's health. I am all for the preservation of personal liberty protected by the Constitution, but in times of public health crises such as this, states and communities must take steps to protect the overall population's health. And the decisions we make as states and as communities as best how to do this should be made with the best scientific guidance and recommendations being followed. I'm the parent of a 5th grader. She is too young to be vaccinated. It concerns me greatly that people want to mix liberties with best health advice. We've been very fortunate here in town that the numbers have been low. The steps that we've taken as a schools and all the principals have taken and followed have kept our children safe. And I urge you to continue to keep those policies and procedures in place using the best science. I'm not an expert on science. We've had experts on science who have come up and talked here tonight. I'm a historian. I've watched and studied history and American history. I've seen how we've been able to combat previous scourges on our population, like yellow fever, like polio, like smallpox. These were all through public health decisions that were unpopular at times, In 1905, the Supreme Court allowed Massachusetts to continue to have vaccine mandates. It's allowed by the Constitution and upheld. We're not at that point yet in town, but I do want us to keep following the best advice possible so that we can combat this virus and move forward as a community. And I thank you all for your time. These are tough decisions. The decisions we normally make are based on budgets and on best educational practices. Now we're adding a whole nother layer of stuff on top of things. So I thank you all for your time and your service, but I just ask you to keep using the best guidance that we have available to guide our community and keep our kids safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to make comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Board comment. Any board members wishing to make comments? Ms. Granado.
Well, I have two closing comments. First, I want to thank the principals and the teachers and the staff, and John had mentioned this earlier, for contributing to the Friday update. You know, opening day is so exciting, and we all kind of missed it because we saw it from afar, but we read it in the Friday update, and we saw, and with pictures and videos, the excitement is tremendous. We bottled it, we'd have no budget problems. So through our Friday update, the board is given an understanding of this new social and emotional curriculum, other new curriculums, and how everybody's settling into this new school year. And my second comment, and you have to bear with me, has to do with our strategic plan that was implemented in 2018 and is our guide for the Wethersfield Public School until 2024. Goal 1 is student achievement, and each goal, if you saw the strategic plan, has action plans. I want to focus on action 2 of Goal 1, and Goal 1 is academic achievement. And it's to increase the instruction and assessment of skills such as interpersonal skills, 21st century skills, social and emotional learning, citizenship skills, and digital citizenship. And these skills should be continuously woven into all content area instruction. And the strategic plan gives even more details. Action 2.1 is to provide professional development and embedded coaching to support educators and all staff in the instruction, modeling, and assessment of the important skills of citizenship, such as civil discourse, integrative thinking, relative thinking, and empathy. And digital citizenship, such as self-image, safety, information literacy, relationships, communication, creative credit and copyright, and cyberbullying. The focus on these skills and the others pointed out in our strategic plan are critically important for our students to be aware of and practicing. These are 21st century skills that are vital to the success of our students. My reason for bringing this up tonight is that we are the teaching adults. All of us are our students' role models, and I believe this job as teachers of our young citizenship is one of our most important jobs, and we must display these skills throughout this very trying time. And before I say thank you, I do want to say thank you for the civil discourse that is being displayed at the Board of Ed meetings. I know we've all seen the news and we're all worried. I want to compliment the citizens of Wethersfield for being the fabulous role models for our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Granado. Anyone else wishing to make comment? Mr. Cassio.
Thank you, Chuck. First of all, thank you, principals, and thank you, Superintendent Emmett. This is an example from what I could see over the years of how we work with our leader-leader model and how we start from the top and allow our schools to operate, but to communicate. And I think that is a great start. And my years serving on the board, I'm excited to see the collaboration and the vertical articulation with our schools, middle school and high school, as well as elementary. They're all part of it. It's a great team. And I think that is a step in the right direction for all of us to continue the communication, not only with parents and staff, but to allow the staff in your building to share their ideas. And I think it's key to make a good district. So thank you for continuing that direction. The other thing I want to just say thank you is I do walk around town, and I'm thrilled to see that we are finally going to take care of the holes in front of Webb School. The snow cones have been put there. I've been asking for over a year now, and they continue to have, they were old trees that was there, and the roots are rotting. But I'm glad to see that hopefully we will take care of this and get it done right. So it's a trip hazard. The question is, through you, Superintendent Emmett, I know we changed direction with regards to the staff and faculty of our district with healthcare, the healthcare programs. And I think as a board, could we get an update on how that is being handled, how we're doing? Has it, gone through the right motions? Has there been any bumps in the road? Has there been any disruptions with people that are currently on that plan?
Absolutely. I'll put that in the Friday update for you.
Yeah, I think that's imperative that we find out about that, because we we didn't select it. It was chosen for them without any interruptions of coverage. And the other thing is, I have the fortunate situation to work next to the Transition Academy. And it's always great to see them outside and walking and the staff interacting and how they interact with me. And there's a great population there, a lot more students, great staff, and they're really, really working very hard to utilize their skill. And the kids are wonderful, and we're good neighbors, and they're good. It's really a good program, and I'm proud to be part of it, and continue the success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Mr. Lesser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two things. First, this is our first Board of Ed meeting in the new school year, and I am already getting, as I'm sure all of us are, wonderful feedback about how our kids are doing, and it's a credit to all of you, principals, to you, Mr. Emmett, Sally, to all of our staff, our parents, and our kids. Big thank you. Last night, we had the Mayor's Ball event, and I'll report on that in a second, but I had parents coming up to me, including one, I'll tell one story, parent of a brand new kindergarten daughter at Highcrest. And the gentleman, the father, could not stop talking about what a wonderful experience she is having so far at Highcrest, and was very complimentary of you, Christine. So thank you for what you're doing there, and thank you to all of our principals. We're off to a great start. And as a segue, last night we had our Mayor's Ball event, and not our typical ball that we usually have at the Wethersfield Country Club. We had it outdoors at the Charles, and we raised close to $10,000, which will be donated all here in Wethersfield, much of it to help our children. Many of you know we support 3 local charities. One is a weekend backpack program for kids. These are students who qualify for free and reduced lunches, of which we have about 25% of our kids in Wethersfield. It's a pretty large number when you think about it. We support them with weekend meals. Secondly, we have a program for seniors. We help feed fresh produce, healthy food to about 80 seniors, some of the poorest seniors in the town of Wethersfield. We supplement what they get in a commodity box every month with, we give them fresh produce with the proceeds from the Mayor's Ball. And third and finally, we offer preschool scholarships for kids, Wethersfield kids who families cannot afford to send them to preschool. And as all you know much better than I do, when kids get the opportunity to go to preschool, they start out with an advantage or much better than kids who don't. So we help support that. So thank you to the entire community who stepped up and generously supported these Mayor's Ball charities, which will help our kids and our seniors in Wethersfield. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lesser. Any other board members wishing to make comment? Yes, Ms. Evans.
First, thanks, principals. That was really great to hear everything that's going on. I have a couple kids at Mr. Cohn's school. I've been to the middle school, the high school. Everybody's so pumped, and I'm so happy that the kids are back. And then secondly, I just wanted to say kudos to this Parent Square app that we have this year, because as a parent in school, it's really hard to keep track of all the emails. And I love the app. I don't know who started it or rolled it out, but it keeps everything super organized. Mr. Emmett's, Mr. Cohn's, it's great. So kudos to whoever put that all together and rolled it out, because it's awesome.
Thank you. Any other board members? Oh, yes.
I just have some information on like upcoming things that are going on at the high school as we start off the year. So as many of you know, all of our fall sports teams are beginning to kick off their seasons. And as Mr. Emmett said, there's a big football game this Friday on Catone against Berlin at 7. As for the art department, all students who auditioned for our fall play, Almost Maine, began their first rehearsal yesterday afternoon. So I'll be sure to keep you all updated with more information as the show gets closer. And the first episode of Blue Eagle News aired last Friday, and tomorrow we're filming for our second episode, which will air this Friday. And we're doing one every week for the remainder of this school year. So that's very exciting. And as Mrs. O'Connor was saying, all of our clubs are now beginning to meet in person, which is very exciting for all of us students involved with all of those, because we get to connect with all of our classmates and the advisors and the teachers, which is just a great opportunity to be back in person. And I just want to say a special thanks to Mrs. O'Connor, who just jumped in this year and has made a lot of positive changes to the school, even with the pandemic going on. So on behalf of all the other students at the high school, we just thank you for doing all that you have. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yusello. Any other board members? Mr. Healy.
Yes, thank you. Just a comment about a lot of what's been said tonight about policies initiated by the board. And rather than proselytize about the masks issue, which I think a lot of people know how I feel, I just want to point out one thing for those who are listening, that we live under an executive order that is promulgated through the legislative branch that gave the power to the governor to set the ground rules by which we now have to follow in our schools every day. Nothing this board could do or say or act can countermand that order. That is the law of the land, and that power was given to the governor by a vote of the legislature. On September 27th of this year, the legislature will meet in special session, and it is anticipated that a debate will follow on whether to extend the governor's executive powers for a prescribed period of time. If that is the case, then it is more than probably likely that whatever the governor decides for all wearing of masks and protocols dealing with the pandemic will be made, and that will be, again, the law of the land. So for those of you who are coming here tonight, and we appreciate everything that's being said on both sides, it's passionate, it's well thought out, it's respectful, and I think that says a lot about our community. I think that's great, and that should continue. But I would also urge you to talk to the other elected officials of this community, particularly your state legislators and state senator, because they will be deciding whether it is appropriate to extend those powers to the governor on the 27th of September. And in the subsequent weeks afterwards, continuing to reach out to them and express how you feel on whatever issue, as long as it pertains to how we conduct the business of the board. We're now living, just for the record, under Executive Order 13G, which made changes to around the edges of how we're dealing with the pandemic, including vaccinations of staff, testing, and mask wearing and social distancing. So I just wanted to put that on the record, that we're more than happy, and we should and hope you continue to come to our meetings and express yourselves and send us emails. It's all important, no matter what the issue is, whether it's masks or not. But I think it's important to understand what the status of our operation is and what powers we do have and do not have under the current arrangement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Healy. Any other board members? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.